Many fans sit shattered as the faces of their favorite stars that have long demanded the attention of TV screens and the voices of their favorite hosts disappear into the ever-expanding void that only seeks more victims. Number 10. One such screen-demanding celebrity was actor Giuseppe Andrews, born in 1979 in Key Largo, Florida. Since his birth, Andrews has been bound for a life in the entertainment industry, with his father having been a guitarist for 25 years. He became interested in acting when he was still in his youth, following the divorce of his parents. While reading a newspaper one day, Andrews spotted an ad for auditions for an agency. When he decided to go, he found himself lucky enough to be signed up. Since then, the aspiring actor has starred in a wide range of feature films, from blockbusters to the controversial. Andrews starred in the 1998 American History X and the 2002 Cabin Fever, but he also found himself delving into other entertainment careers. Today, his biography lists him as a screenwriter, director, and songwriter. He was known to write, direct, edit, shoot, and produce several films himself. Andrews directed In Our Garden, Tater Tots, Ants, Crossbreeds, and The Date Movie, among many more. Adding to his list of careers is also a poet, spiritualist, and missing person. Andrews' films, music, and movie appearances came to an abrupt halt in 2015, when he suddenly vanished without a trace, leaving fans shocked, concerned, and wondering what had become of him. Not much is known about the celebrity's disappearance, or if he's even alive today. Shortly before vanishing, his social media accounts appeared to have been deleted. It's unclear who was behind this, whether it was Andrews himself or someone more sinister. The only thing left in his wake was an expansive body of work, including more than 70 films. Aside from his films and acting, it's as though Giuseppe Andrews never existed. Upon his disappearance, the actor was supposedly last seen in a bar. Although the name of the establishment was never disclosed, it's one that he was known to frequent. On that day, Andrews was said to be acting erratically at the bar and was said to seem out of sorts. Upon his enigmatic departure, he left his trailer to Walt Dongo, a former homeless actor. His website was also subsequently deactivated, and his personal films were all destroyed. That day, Andrews vanished along with his girlfriend, Mary Ann, and no one knows what became of them. One YouTuber, DJ SCTV Vivo, decided to engage in a very short investigation into the disappearance. During his efforts, he discovered a Twitter thread dating back to 2018 that led him to a fan account dedicated to the actor. Here, the Twitter user posted a screenshot that looked as though it was a FaceTime screen, claiming that she had just spoken to the real Andrews, yet there's still some debate as to the screenshot's authenticity. It was also alleged that he was living in a basement in Elko, Nevada, another allegation that remains unconfirmed. The mystery also found itself on multiple Reddit threads. One commenter even referred to an interview that seemingly hints at the idea that Andrews may be living among homeless people. Despite the persistence of online sleuths and their investigative efforts, the whereabouts of the now 45-year-old remain unknown. Number 9. Forest Schab, or DY as he's better known, was born in Vancouver, British Columbia, and by the age of just 14 years old, he began making music. Forest rose to stardom as a rapper in the Canadian hip-hop scene with his 2009 hit single called Passenger, which featured Danny Fernandez. But in 2010, the rapper's music career would come to a close. Forest spoke with his parents in August of 2010 and promptly vanished, leaving an enduring mystery in his wake. That August, he was in Toronto, where he was shooting a music video for his single That's My Spot, featuring D. Woods. The 26-year-old supposedly left Canada for Mexico after that, but it's uncertain if he ever arrived there. Several aspects of Forest's disappearance make this case particularly perplexing. No one knows the exact date on which he departed from Canada, or the date he intended to arrive in Mexico. It's believed that he was heading out on a 2-week-long retreat and informed his close relatives and friends that he would be out of contact during that time. Those 2 weeks, though, came and went, and the family was growing concerned, and they began phoning him continuously, but the calls went unanswered. Despite being a well-known celebrity within the hip-hop community, he wasn't reported as missing until 3 lengthy months later. Family, friends, fans, and his record label, CP Records, hadn't heard from him since August, but only brought this to the attention of the Toronto Police Service in November. The time that his vanishing went unreported may have played a crucial role in why he's never been found. At the time that he was reported missing, the family decided not to make his disappearance public knowledge for the consideration of Forest's music career. They believed that he would turn up any day and didn't want to risk negatively affecting his career. The secret that he was gone didn't stay hidden for long when friends and fans began inquiring about his absence. The release of That's My Spot was subsequently placed on hold by the label, which awaited the rapper's return. But as the months pressed on, and after sympathizing with the family, the video was released. Hauntingly, Forest's Facebook page had its location updated to say everywhere. The rapper was seemingly still active on his socials, including Twitter and Facebook, until the 8th of September in 2010, when he wished the Toronto radio personality Ginny McKenzie a happy birthday. The missing rapper's record label also prompted a large-scale viral search and rescue operation. They asked if fans could retweet the details given about Forest and contact the Toronto police if they had any information about his whereabouts. Since his disappearance, many theories about what may have happened to him have been circulated. Some suggest that he became involved in organized crime with connection to the Hells Angels. Others believe he started a new life, a life where he's a nobody. No trace, evidence, or clues as to Forest's whereabouts have ever been uncovered, and he remains missing to this day. Information about this missing rapper can be directed to the Toronto Police Service at 416-808-2222. Number 8. Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose is referred to as a hero by many of his defiance of British authority. He was a prominent figure in the independence movement in India. He led an armed force composed of other prisoners of war as well as volunteers. With the chosen path in life, it comes as no shock that Netaji would need to seek political asylum. On the 18th of August in 1945, he boarded an airplane that would depart Taipei, which at the time was under Japanese occupation. Upon takeoff, though, the plane crashed, instantly claiming the life of the pilot, co-pilot, and Lieutenant General, Tsunemasa Shide. Shide and Netaji were on their way to Dairen, where they would be discussing political asylum, with Shide serving as the main negotiator. News of the plane crash quickly flooded its way through India, with claims that Netaji had succumbed to his wounds. But with the lack of photographs, a certificate of passing, or any other evidence that secured the idea that the influential figure was deceased, the Indian National Army refused to believe it, thus sparking an enduring missing person case that persists even today. Among the refusal to believe that Netaji was deceased, there were other conspiracies in circulation, claiming that the plane crash was not an accident. 5 years prior to the event, the figure had escaped house arrest in Calcutta, which had initially sparked rumors regarding his whereabouts, before he reappeared in Germany a year later. This piece of his life only added to Netaji's mysterious personality and fueled the idea that he may have done another disappearing act as he had before, leaving all of his supporters mystified. By the 1950s, more stories began to surface that claimed that Netaji had turned into a recluse and was living his life elsewhere. In the 60s, associates of the missing man formed an organization promoting the idea that he'd sought sanctuary in North Bengal. The government of India would later commission 3 inquiries into the disappearance of Netaji, with the first 2 concluding his passing, but the last was inconclusive. Between April and July of 1956, a committee was formed to investigate the incident further. They'd interviewed 67 witnesses, some of whom had survived the plane crash and still bore scars from their injuries. Among the interviewees was a surgeon who allegedly treated the missing man. The committee ultimately concluded that Netaji had passed away, but when this was brought to the attention of Netaji's brother, Suresh, he declined to sign the final report that stated his brother was deceased. Instead, he wrote a note claiming that the members of the staff of the committee were withholding some crucial evidence. Further investigation into the committee's 181-page report, it was discovered that 2 or more witness testimonies had discrepancies. This forced the whole testimony of the witnesses to be discredited, and the report was subsequently deemed false. Based on these new findings, it was ultimately determined that there had been no such crash in the first place, and that Netaji was still alive. In the 60s, rumors about the man being alive only increased, and another commission was established to inquire about the disappearance. In 1974, the single investigator, G.D. Khosla, submitted his report. His report concurred with the initial findings that Netaji's life was claimed. But still, this answer did not satisfy the masses. So in 2005, another probe was conducted into the incident. Hundreds of files regarding the missing man were seized from several countries. Most accounts appeared in favor of the plane crash, but it was concluded that these accounts were unreliable. It was then determined that there was a secret plan to get Netaji safe passage to the USSR that the Japanese authorities had knowledge of. Then, as a final piece of evidence, one co-passenger supposedly survived the plane crash. The report about the crash claimed that it had nosedived from 12,000 feet to 14,000 feet. So since there was one confirmed survivor and direct witnesses, it was concluded that the accident never happened in the first place, and that if it had, no one would be left alive. Without evidence of a plane crash, the idea that Netaji was still alive prevailed, leaving behind more questions than answers. Many theories still circulate today regarding the potential whereabouts of the famous figure. Number 7. On the 4th of June in 1941, Brazil's most promising pianist and arranger was born. Francisco Tenorio Jr., better known as Tenorio Jr., was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and grew up to become a revered and important bossa nova musician. His piano melodies can be heard in various albums, including Edson Machado's E Samba Novo. In 1964, at the age of 21 years old, he recorded his first and only album, and it was made up of instrumental pieces and named Embalo. In the album, he was accompanied by other musicians playing various instruments, from drums to the trumpet and trombone. Tenorio played in various concerts around the world, but his 1976 Buenos Aires performance, the final concert of the tour, would become the most memorable. This is because he would enigmatically vanish after the show, during which he was accompanied by poet Vinicius de Moraes and Toquinho. After the show, in the early hours of the morning, Tenorio slid a note underneath Vinicius's door at the Normandy Hotel. It read, "I'm going out to buy cigarettes and medicine. We'll be back soon." But the 34-year-old musician never returned from his walk. Suspicion immediately fell on the Argentinian military dictatorship police. It was theorized that he'd been arrested, tortured, and subsequently lost his life, a theory that has not in 48 years been confirmed, leaving the disappearance of Tenorio a mystery. The late 70s was a dangerous time to be in Argentina. It was enveloped by kidnappings and homicides instigated against social activists at the hands of the military. Whether or not this was the fate that he suffered cannot be known, but the story of the enigmatic disappearance of Tenorio gave rise to a spectacular film that keeps the memory of the revered pianist alive. The film sets the tone of a noir-style investigation into the vanishing. It follows the life of a fictional New York music journalist, Jeff Harris, who was intrigued by the disappearance and embarked on an investigation in 2009. In the film, the character meets with other music legends as he tries to uncover what happened to Tenorio on that fateful day. The story ends in a bitter and tragic twist, where a member of the military reveals that the pianist was snatched at the corner shop, sealing his fate of a tragic demise. The animated film and documentary graphic novel that came before it has given rise to the misconception that Tenorio had lost his life that evening. But the involvement of the Argentina military is nothing more than speculation. To this day, the case of Francisco Tenorio Jr. remains an enduring mystery that still haunts the music world. Number 6. Terrence Woods Jr. was born to be a big dreamer. Since he was young, he wanted to be a film producer, and that's exactly what he would become. After obtaining his double master's degree at the University of Maryland in 2013, Terrence eagerly began his dream career in film production. Terrence Sr., his father, was nothing short of proud to see his son doing exactly what he wanted to do. For several years, he lived abroad and worked on productions all over the world, including some of the most remote locations. There was a promising future ahead for him. His dreams were finally coming true. At the age of 26 in 2018, Terrence found himself becoming a freelance television producer and was working as an assistant at a shoot in Idaho. He and a 12-man crew from Raw TV were producing a documentary series for Discovery Channel. The series Gold Rush was set near the Penman Mines in Idaho, where Terrence would arrive on the 5th of October of that year. He promptly let his family know that he arrived there safely, and that he was planning on cutting his time on the set short to travel back to Maryland on the 10th of October. That day, he was soon joined by the rest of the crew, who would go on to do some filming in the area. But a day later, Terrence Sr. would receive another call. It was every parent's worst nightmare. his son was gone. As the chute began dwindling down on the evening of the 5th, Terrence informed someone that he would be heading into a nearby forest. He dropped his radio on the ground, hopped over the edge of a steep hill, ran down it, and subsequently vanished into the thick trees. At least 2 crew members had witnessed his bizarre behavior and reportedly chased after him. When they found their search efforts to be futile, the crews reported Terrence missing to the authorities. The night was drawing in as the missing person report was being filed, only allowing for a full-scale search effort to commence the following day. The efforts saw both ground and air searches, as well as a canine unit, but after several days of scouring the woods, the search for Terrence Woods Jr. was called off. The Idaho County Sheriff's Office found not a single trace of the missing producer. His behavior had even appeared strange to his closest relatives. They found it odd that he'd headed out in the middle of nowhere with no phone service. Something was amiss. The years trotted on with still no sign of Terrence anywhere. There were no leads, no traces, and no evidence that hinted to foul play. But his family believed there was more to the story than the producer just running away. This idea prompted a dispute between the man's parents and Raw TV. The dispute centered around the way the rest of the crew treated Terrence, particularly the associate producer, Simon Gee. Terrence Sr. believed that his son may have seen or heard something that he didn't agree with and wanted to leave. Despite further investigations, the authorities were never able to confirm mistreatment or foul play. A 911 call on the evening that the disappearance took place hinted at an alleged mental breakdown, but Terrence's family maintained that he had not suffered any such issues previously, so they remained suspicious about that call. A private detective was brought into the case who reinvestigated it but found no new leads. As of 2025, the Idaho police are not actively searching for the missing producer, although any tips that they receive will be investigated. In recent years, Raw TV has been placed under renewed pressure to provide answers in the disappearance of Terrence, who remains missing to this day. Number 5. Where is the Olympic sailor Trevor Moore? This is the question that many Miami residents are asking themselves when it comes to the disappearance of the Massachusetts-raised Olympic athlete. Trevor would grow up to become an incredible sailor, a 3-time Intercollegiate Sailing Association All-American from 2006 to 2007. He helped the Hobart and William Smith colleges win the championships in both the co-ed fleet racing and the team racing. He would go on to win the B division in the 2005 Nationals. Trevor was passionate about the races. In 2008, he finished 4th place in the Olympic trials and competed in many national championships for the Hinman Trophy. In 2010, he won the Sail Melbourne World Cup and the U.S. Sailing Rolex Miami OCR. He also placed 9th at the 2011 ISAF Sailing World Championships. Trevor would go on to compete in the 2012 Summer Olympics, earning one of the top spots after finishing 15th, an outstanding achievement for someone his age, competing against the top international athletes. The sailor was already in the middle of a promising career with a promising future ahead. He soon began putting all his time and effort into preparations for the upcoming 2016 Olympic Games after his early achievements. But Trevor would never be able to fulfill his dream, and he never made it to the Olympic Games. Instead, he disappeared, leaving behind an enduring mystery that continued to disturb the sailing community. In June of 2015, Trevor decided to head out into the bay alone for a simple ride, not knowing that he was about to spark off an intriguing mystery. That day, aboard an inflatable dinghy powerboat, he set out into the Biscayne Bay off the Miami coast. Family, friends, and onlookers watched as the boat and Trevor's silhouette became invisible. It drifted on away from shore. Later that same day at 6 p.m., the 16-foot inflatable boat was discovered in the Dinner Key Marina. Its engine was still running, and personal possessions were inside, including Trevor's life vest, which was still on the VSR, but the 30-year-old sailor was nowhere to be seen. Trevor Moore was subsequently reported missing, launching an extensive search by the Coast Guard. Searchers scaled over 510 square nautical miles during a 3-day search. The efforts included a Coast Guard helicopter and rescue boat, as well as more boats belonging to the Miami Police, Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, the National Park Service, and community members. But as darkness drew on that 3rd evening, search efforts had to be called off. Trevor was gone. During his journey, something must have happened since the boat made its way back to the marina. It hovered there, tied up in the mooring lines with no one aboard. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission took over the investigation into his disappearance, but to this day, the revered Olympic sailor remains missing. Number 4. Zelim Bakaev was born in the Chechen Republic. At a young age, he became passionate about music and started singing. As an adult, he worked in the Department of Culture for the Grozny mayor's office until he became a soloist in the song and dance ensemble known as Stolitsa. He began touring, performing concerts, and becoming quite the sensation across Chechnya and Russia, among other countries. This promising career, though, would become shattered in August of 2017, when the pop singer suddenly vanished into thin air. On the 6th of August that year, he left Moscow, where he'd been living, to attend his sister's wedding in his native Chechnya. But Zelim never made it to the important celebration. 2 days after arriving in the area, he went missing. It was alleged that on the 8th of August that year, around 6 p.m., the singer was approached by a group of supposed security officials in central Grozny. According to the reports, he was dragged into a nearby car, kidnapped, and never seen again. After not hearing from her son for a few days, Zelim's mother reported him missing to the Chechnya police, but they had no grounds to open a criminal investigation. She then wrote to the local strongman, Ramzan Kadyrov, hoping that he would be able to find her missing son. But his effort proved futile. Zelim was gone. The mystery didn't end there either. On the 24th of September, 2 mysterious videos appeared on YouTube. The videos have since been removed, but they appeared to depict the missing man. The lookalike explained that he had left Russia back in August and headed to Germany. But Zelim's friends and relatives suggested that the person in the 2 videos was not the real singer and didn't even look like him. The man in the videos appeared ruffled and sloppy, a stark contrast compared to the meticulous care that Zelim was known to take in his appearance. It also appeared that the man in the video was thinner. They refused to believe that this was the missing Chechen singer. Further fueling their belief that this was not the missing man was the furniture seen in the background of the apartment in the videos. They appeared reminiscent of Chechnya and not of Germany. It was later suggested that this was Zelim, but that his supposed captors were forcing him to make this video, which would allow the local authorities to deny that he was missing. It also became public that the pop star may have been the victim of an alleged purge led by Ramzan. Despite the Russian authorities' denial that this was the case, there were several witnesses who'd seen the abduction take place. If Zelim had been dragged into a vehicle, he would be the most prominent figure to have fallen victim to this purge. His disappearance had fueled much speculation. Some believe that this prominent figure may have been captured and tortured, but these theories have never been confirmed, leaving Zelim Bakaev's fate, for the moment, uncertain. Number 3. For exactly 2 hours and 46 minutes, Memi Lahung was one of the fastest women in the world. She flew past her 36,000 competitors at the London Marathon, finishing 20th, and then she was gone. Memi was among the top distance runners in Sierra Leone, a country in West Africa. It was a Sunday in London, and Memi had occupied a lodging in the southeast, to which she was supposed to return after the race, but she didn't. The 24-year-old would also miss her Monday flight home, and was subsequently reported missing to the Metropolitan Police. But it appears that international sporting events, such as marathons, have become events that have seen the most disappearances. During the 2012 London Olympics, 21 athletes and coaches had enigmatically vanished. During the 2006 Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, 25 athletes went missing, and in the Commonwealth Games of 2002, another 26 disappeared. In most such cases, the disappearances are by choice, with 82 athletes, coaches, and other delegates filing for asylum in the United Kingdom. But Memi's case seemed different. She'd left her personal belongings behind upon her disappearance, and this included her temporary visa and her mobile phone. Memi had no links to the United Kingdom, and wouldn't have been able to travel out of it without her visa. After having announced the disappearance in the early morning of Monday, desperation ensued to find the missing marathon runner. But soon, the case of the missing woman would begin taking some confusing turns. That afternoon, much to everyone's shock, the police released another notice, claiming that Memi had been found. They then issued a correction to say that they were actually still trying to find her. The Metropolitan Police said that she'd returned home, but retracted the erroneous statement. A coach from Memi's nation's capital, Freetown, expressed concerns about the loss of the country's best female athlete, with a national record of 5,000 and 10,000 meters. She'd even won a marathon in Liberia with zero professional training. Amid concern, speculation arose that Mamie had willingly departed in search of asylum, but no one had seen this alleged plot for escape coming. The 24-year-old's Australian manager, Joe Dunlop, told the newspaper that Mamie didn't weigh much and had no change of clothes with her when she enigmatically vanished. Officers, family, and friends are still concerned for her safety. With no leads or evidence as to her potential whereabouts, the much-revered celebrity of the athletic world sparked much unease following the various disappearances noted in London in 2012. When Mamie Lahun ran the London Marathon, she no doubt raised the profile of Sierra Leone, becoming the nation's first woman to run the long distance, among more than 30,000 trained athletes. In her accomplishment, though, the young runner would leave behind an enduring mystery. It's since been 10 years since Mamie was last seen. There's still no sign of her anywhere. No leads have since come about, and she's not been able to contact any of her family, friends, or her manager. Mamie's visa has since expired, and there's no evidence that she's applied for a new one. The question remains, what happened to Mamie Lahun, Sierra Leone's fastest woman? Number 2. Nick Gill may not be much of a household name, but he remains one of the most highly regarded chefs of his generation. He's often mentioned among today's celebrity chefs, including Gordon Ramsay, Gary Rhodes, and Marco Pierre White. At the age of 21, he became the youngest ever British chef to be awarded a Michelin star. He had turned a remote country house into the nation's finest dining establishment. Nick was dubbed a culinary genius, leading to a personal and professional implosion. He was renowned and further famed for his connection to another legendary individual, the restaurant critic Adrian Gill, his brother, who was also a revered and well-known chef. Nick found himself delving into professional cooking in the 80s, working at hotels, restaurants, and pubs all across England, before setting up his critically acclaimed restaurant. In the late 90s, this famous chef's life began taking a daunting turn. He'd suffered a crisis that saw his whole career left in shambles and his finances collapse. After having been jailed for assault, Nick returned to an unfortunate life, and in 1998 he sparked an intriguing mystery when he vanished from the face of the planet. Nick's brother Adrian, the food critic, was the last person to see him alive. Nick had gone to his older brother to tell him he was going to disappear. Of course, Adrian didn't believe him at the time, but that's exactly what the chef did. His last words were, "Please don't look for me." Right up until his passing in 2016, Adrian Gill awaited his brother's phone call and scoured the streets in search of him, but to no avail. Nick was gone. Adrian would later become a writer too, and even mentioned his long-lost brother in his book, Poor Me, A Life. In the book, Adrian recounts his last memory of his brother, when Nick had walked towards the door and said, "I'm going away now, France maybe, but I'm not coming back." Since then, there's been no hint or trace of him, leaving family and friends frustrated and heartbroken. They'd be forced to live a life never knowing what happened to their beloved relative. He never made contact with his brother or his mother, Yvonne, who still clings to the hope that he will one day return. Yvonne, the voice coach and actress, still believes that her son is alive somewhere, but his choice to depart will forever be a mystery to her. She believes that if he was no longer alive, then there would be a body that would turn up, but nobody ever did, and he remains missing. Theories abound about what may have happened to the famous chef. Did he become involved in organized crime? Was his life taken over a debt that went unpaid? Or is he living life as a recluse away from society? It seems that we may never know the truth about what happened to him. Frustration consumed his family, some of whom have since passed on, never knowing if Nick Gill was still alive. Number 1. On the 9th of July in 1917, Portland, Oregon welcomed a famous basketball player to the scene. Orel Wintermute was a member of the University of Oregon's legendary basketball team. He was the tallest of them all, standing at a staggering 6 foot 8 inches tall, playing center. The team won the first ever NCAA tournament championship as they crunched their way through Texas, then Oklahoma, and eventually defeated Ohio State. In 1994, Wintermute found himself elected to the University of Oregon Athletic Hall of Fame. This well-known basketball player also played for the Detroit Eagles of the NBA League and was a player-coach for the Portland team. In 1953, Wintermute brought his basketball career to a close and moved to Lake Oswego, Oregon. Here, he raised his family, worked for a local car dealership, and later started his own leasing company. Wintermute's life was going well. He was settling down after a largely successful and professional career. In 1977, while recovering from a heart attack, he decided to close his business and move to Seattle, where the Boeing Corporation had hired him. On the 19th of October of that year, though, the basketball star's life would take an unexpected turn. He and a friend, Jerry Caldwell, decided to embark on an outing. They took Wintermute's yacht from Portage Bay onto Seattle's Lake Union. Then Orel Wintermute vanished. During the outing, Caldwell decided to head off to sleep. Before retiring, though, Wintermute was still alive, well, and on board. The following morning, when the friend awoke, though, he discovered that Wintermute was gone. There was no trace of the basketball legend anywhere. He'd simply disappeared into the open water. Upon discovering this, Caldwell promptly notified the authorities, who briefly searched the boat and found no trace of the man. Neither the detective nor family members believed that his friend had anything to do with the disappearance, but they're at a loss for a possible explanation. Since he had previously suffered a heart attack, authorities wondered if he may have suffered another medical emergency and fallen overboard. Further rescue efforts were soon underway, but even after dredging the lake, the body of Orel Wintermute was never located. To this day, the renowned basketball player has never been found, and he's been declared a missing person ever since. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.